City of Stevens Point Police and Fire Commission meeting, recorded April 6, 2021.
I can't quite read what you're holding up there, Alder Kneebone, but I'm going to call to order at 2 o'clock the regular April meeting of the Police and Fire Commission. Leanne, would you please call the roll?
Urschling.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Ostrowski.
Present.
Westcott.
I am here, and in a little bit, we will recognize former Commissioner Carlson, who has joined us. Let the record also show that Alder Kneebone, who serves as the liaison from the Common Council, is in attendance here today, too. Second item on our agenda today is the 2020 annual report presentation from the Fire Department. With that, I'm going to recognize Chief Bob Finn, his management team, and others as part of the overall report on 2020. Chief Finn?
Thank you, sir. Chief Center, can you switch over to the classroom so we could control the screen, please?
You're muted.
You're muted, Chief. Tom, you're muted. If you're talking to us, I can't hear you.
I was. If monitor the participants just in case somebody wishes to come into the meeting.
Oh, okay. You got that, Chief Kenza?
Yes. Actually, I put it as co-host, so hopefully this works. If not, I'll make you a full host.
Okay.
Can they see, do they see the presentation?
Can you see the report?
No.
We're having a little technical difficulties here.
There we go. We can see it now.
Okay. Excuse me. Before I start the 2020 annual report for Stevens Point Fire Department, I have to give a shout out to the fire department supervisory staff, the management staff, and especially Amanda, who put this report together today for today's presentation. On behalf of all members of the Stevens Point Fire Department, I proudly present our 2020 annual report. The value of this report cannot be overstated as it continues to represent the many accomplishments throughout the year of our dedicated staff. These accomplishments would not have been possible if not for the members of this department, the direction of the Police and Fire Commission, the investment and support of the Common Council, and elected or appointed officials, and ultimately the support from the public we proudly serve. As everyone knows, 2020 was a strange year. The impact of COVID on the fire department and community cannot be underestimated. Here are a few of the things that we went through throughout the year to make sure of safe and efficient operations occurred at the fire department. We have updated the Police and Fire Commission throughout the year, monthly meetings, at special meetings. There was even a need to call for a state of emergency so we could operate as a department. Our mission statement is the Stevens Point Fire Department exists to improve the fire and life safety of the community through training, education, and risk reduction. Here's our vision statement. I'll leave it up there for a second so you can read it. But the members of the Stevens Point Fire Department are committed to our values and missions and dedicated to our profession. Our core values of the department is PRICE, P-R-I-C-E. We say price of doing business. Professionalism, respect, integrity, compassion, and excellence. Organizational chart, which has changed from 2019 to 2020 with the addition of the training officer's position. Members of the 2020 Police and Fire Commission, as you can see. This was Local 484's Executive Board for the year 2020. This is the administrative staff of the Stevens Point Fire Department. These are dates of hire, not dates of appointment for all members of the management team and the administrative staff. The next few slides are in the report, and I'm going to kind of go through them fast, are just the names of the members that were assigned to each platoon for the year 2020. This graph shows on the right years of service that these members of the fire department reached benchmarks. Benchmarks in the fire service is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. And if you get to 40, 40. If you get to 50, God bless. Average years of service is 12.7, and the average age of our personnel is 39.6. I'm probably dragging that average down a little bit, or raising it up, I should say. These are new employees that we hired and members that had left the department within 2020. Awards, Captain Hebler was given the life-saving award for a full cardiac arrest at Milwaukee County Airport, where he assisted the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Department and the Milwaukee County Airport Fire Department. Continued to do CPR. He was recognized by the Police and Fire Commission and also the Sheriff of Milwaukee County. Here's a list of EMS response. Total EMS runs by year for the last 5 years. As you can see, as advertised, if you go from 2017 to 2019, where Clover had a full year of ambulances, and our run volume dropped approximately 1,000 runs. This slide shows what townships and towns that we went to and villages that we went to for the last 5 years and percentage of calls that were given to them communities. This is the total response, 2,187 EMS runs. That was just for the city of Stevens Point in the year 2020. Here's a graph that shows the top 5 reasons for ambulances being dispatched. Number 1 is falls. Number 2 is a sick person. 3, breathing problems. 4, medical transportation. And 5 is traffic transportation incident. We have and continue to work with a falls prevention program, and we continue to do so for the elderly in the community. This is a report by Dr. Clark, our medical director, on some of the stuff that he assisted us and we worked with him on 2020. A lot of it was COVID related, but besides COVID, we were able to get education on airway management, agitated patients, and the use of ketamine. We updated protocols for cardiac protocols, and we worked with services to enroll in the cardiac arrest registry to enhance survival database. Captain Hebler and Lieutenant Armando Ramon worked with Chief Gemza on purchasing equipment. In 2020, again, money was spent on COVID-related items and PPE. Besides keeping everything else up and running, we replaced some outdated and broken equipment. There's a new purchasing system was implemented. As you can see, the last bullet point is cardiac monitor committee. We're hopefully to have new monitors within weeks in 2021. A lot of time and effort went into a lot of members of the committee and worked with the county to get the monitors that they wanted to work with. Again, medication purchasing, Lieutenant Armando Ramon. Our paramedic internship was, we did some stuff virtually, but due to COVID, we had to place the program on hold for 2020. We're looking forward to open it up probably in 2022. Rescue Task Force Trainings, Captain Hebler, that's where we work with Plover PD, the Sheriff's Department, and always with the Stevens Point Police Department and Rescue Task Force Training. The training this year was held at Century's Insurance Residency Facility in February before COVID hit. And we get to the fire side of the house, and here's runs by years. For 2020, we had 1,039 fire runs. But I want to note that total property saved was just under $5 million. This slide, it's in the report. It can go over it a little better. We have what we call NIFRS. It's National Fire Incident Reporting System, and it gives codes on what we responded to. This is the breakdown of the responses that we had. Fire equipment purchasing, Captain Hebler. We upgraded our truck belts. We purchased new ladders and some saw blades. Our 4 gas meters were updated by firefighter paramedic Peter Strusky, and we have in capital for the last 4 or 5 years of hose purchasing. Lieutenant Shorley is trying to bring up all the hose up to standard, and we donated to old hose of various organizations. We purchased 39 pieces of hose last year. Technical rescue training, our training officer, Trevor Howard. We focused on water and trench rescue. We have half the department now is trained in swift water rescue, and we upgraded our equipment for our personal flotation devices, and we went to Mustang ice water rescue suits. And the classes that trained the trainer were canceled due to COVID, and hopefully we'll get that training in 2021. Grant programs, Lieutenant Zander. One of the bullet points is where it says City of Stevens Point room tax grant. We applied for a room tax. The only reason that we were able to get that is due to the MOU we have with Midstate and DCI to run classes at our training site. And the DCI class will bring in 40 people into Stevens Point in early fall. I believe September this year is the class, and they would like to run the class twice next year with 40 people in the class each time. When it comes to what I talked about the NIFRS system, Captain Zavar is in charge of that. We upgraded the system in late 2020. And we upgraded our software to generate reports with image trends. SCBA and respirators, Captain Zavara. As you can see at the top one, we acquired several self-contained breathing apparatus from Cronin Weather Fire Department. That's because our SCBA bottles, the bottles that we wear to go into hazardous environments such as house fires or hazardous materials, are getting outdated and we can't find parts. We are in the process of writing for a grant for, I believe it's $350-something thousand to replace these bottles this year. Our personal protective equipment is our firefighting gear. We have in capital every year to replace turnout coats, bunker pants, boots, helmets, because NFPA 1851 says that you have to replace it after every 10 years or after so much damage to them from a fire. Our internship program for the fire side is run by Lieutenant Cook. That was suspended in 2020 due to COVID, and we also hope to get that back up and running in 2022. Fire Prevention Bureau, we streamlined inspections. We became the compliance engine, which has to do with fire alarms and hood systems. 921 Documents is a document software that helps us write fire investigation reports. And due to COVID, we were able to figure out online burn permits, which we are going to keep using now that we have the technology to do it. We were able to get a vehicle for the Fire Prevention Bureau, and inspections assignments were updated in geographical areas for the lieutenants to go out and do. Last year, we did 861 inspections of the 1,357 occupancy. There was a large period of time in 2020 that the state said, do not do inspections. They gave us amnesty. I shouldn't say amnesty because they still had to be done, but they gave us some time to get 2020's inspections done sometime in 2021. And there was an increase of 75 inspectable properties from 2019. The investigation division, 18 fires were investigated, 1 determined to be incendiary. Total loss of fire damage is $327,997. Fire Marshal Egan was certified as a IAAA fire investigation technician. And 3 investigators with this picture is attended the International Association of Arson Investigation Expert Witness Testimony course, which after a lot of hard work for about 18 months, we were able to host this class in Stevens Point. We worked with the sheriff, the chief judge, the DA, and we were able to host this class. I'd also like to put out that we are one of the few in the state, and I know the only one in central Wisconsin, that work with the police department. We train with the police department. If we have a full-blown investigation where the shift commander cannot find out, a phone call is made to the police department and they send a detective out from the investigation bureau and work together on investigation of that particular fire. Our public education division is Fire Marshal Egan and firefighter paramedic Shane Westfall. And due to COVID, we couldn't do a lot of pub ed stuff. But Shane and Drew came up with virtual public education via YouTube and Facebook, and we have our own YouTube page, and we had over 20,000 views. And we continue, and we are going to continue to use this as an avenue to give public service announcements out to the community in the future. We got a new Sparky the Fire Dog suit. It was replaced after 40 years. We donated the old suit. Believe it or not, Sparky suits are not cheap. Our training division, with Trevor Howard being appointed to the training officer position that was created this year, he increased training hours by 65% per month. for COVID-19 impacts. We now have Target Solutions where he can put training in, and it goes out to FD all, and each member is assigned a date that it has to be completed by. Peer support is our critical stress debriefing team that is led by Travis Cook. MPO Justin Thompson assists him with this. And during trying times this year of COVID and stuff, it has helped some of the fire department members. Fleet maintenance is run by Lieutenant Mark Shorberly. They worked diligently to get the specs that they were looking for 2 additional ambulances for the arrival of the 2021 in the summer. And we're just submitting the design of the new fire utility vehicle that's going to go in service in the fall of this year to replace the brush truck. The money's already in the capital. And here's another big one at Lieutenant Sander, Lexipol. We had it as a capital expense. We were able to find money in the fire department budget. The police department used this. And Lieutenant Zander is in the process of putting all our policies, procedures, SOPs in through Lexipol. They are vetted through Lexipol, and it gives us a better standardized operating procedures. IT support is Captain Zavara, works with, he's working with the integration of CAD2. Lieutenant Kudrowski worked with the LATEX software. LATEX software is our scheduling system that's on the phone. We also, Geotech tablets for all department ambulances in Car 5. And they have also been working on the new CAD system with the county that I believe is going to try to go up live in the beginning of next year.
Yeah, end of 21 or beginning of 22.
Okay, it's end of 2021, beginning of 2022. We were able to purchase 3 portable radios. And that also falls under Captain Zavara. Building maintenance from under Captain Paul Matlin. And again, COVID-19 cleaning procedures. We bought Victory backpacks and handle disinfectant sprayers, touchless water fountains, clothes dryers and washers, keyless entry, complete control contract to address ongoing issues with our dated HVAC. We also still updating the station, which will be in the 2021 report for the bunk room and the watch office to stop the spread of COVID in living conditions. Here's a picture of all our apparatus that we currently have in service, our frontline pieces. And to the citizens, Stevens Point, police and fire commissioners, elected officials, city administration, and members of the Stevens Point Fire Department, a big thank you for making 2020 a very successful year. That does the presentation. This presentation and the annual report, we did catch a couple of minor punctuation errors that we're going to correct at the end of this meeting. It will be posted on the city's website tomorrow morning. If you have any questions, I have Assistant Chief Gemza here in charge of VMS, Assistant Chief Moody, Chief of Operations. I got Division Chief Howard, who's in charge of the training division, Division Chief Egan, who's in charge of fire prevention. We'll be happy to take any questions.
Well, let me first thank you and the entire men and women of the fire and ambulance service for assembling an incredible report. I'll have a few questions, but before I go, let me see if any of my colleagues on the commission, Commissioners Moore, Commissioner Kirschley, I should recognize you first because you serve as the liaison from the Police and Fire Commission to the fire service. Do you have any thoughts you'd like to add at this point, sir?
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I know this has been a challenging year for the police and fire, and the fire department's been done a terrific job of working through the challenges, especially when COVID was hitting our community extremely hard. So I'm very proud of the men and women of the department, Chief Finn and his assistant chiefs.
Commissioner Ostrowski, Commissioner Moore. Bob?
My big comment was I was happy to receive this report because it answers a lot of questions for a lot of people within the community. I think our people, if they listen to this report at all, can realize what a first-class department we have for the city of our size. I would only urge our people in the finance area to continue to support this department with the most updated equipment we can possibly give them. The men and women of the department are important, but they have to have the right equipment to do their job. So I would encourage our support community-wise for that.
Thank you, Bob. Jerry, any thoughts, comments, questions?
No,
Sure.
not right now. I'm good. Those
All right.
guys covered it very well.
Before I ask my questions, Alderperson Nebo, and you want to weigh in on anything here? I mean, you're a good liaison. Any thoughts, observations from your perspective?
I took some notes. I'll brag on the department at the council meeting in my 3 minutes ahead of the agenda going forward. And I can't really add much to what's been said. We are so fortunate in this community.
We are very fortunate to have such a fine service. Bob, I think you touched on it, but I know the commission is going to encourage you to publicly post the annual report when it's feasible. I certainly want to make sure that a copy of this report is distributed to all 11 alderpersons and to mayor and other city officials, including the clerk, comptroller, and the city attorney. I think what stood out the most for me as I just quickly watch the overview of the report is how many important behind the scenes upgrades, educational steps from arson investigation to training took place during the tremendous problems that were created by the pandemic. And, those are the stories that frequently are not told. I was delighted to see that our training had increased 65% per month. That is consistent with commission goals that we train, and we keep training. And we never let up in our training and looking for a better way to do things. I don't know that I was very surprised that EMS seems to have kind of stabilized in that 2,000 plus. Any observations from either you or Assistant Chief Gemza in the emergency medical services area? I know after Plover and Amherst went online, the number of runs were up because the reality is they were taking more of them, but we've seen it kind of stabilized in that 2,000 plus. That where you're anticipating this staying?
Yes, the total runs was just under 2,200 runs last year
For the city.
for the city. Okay, for 2020 we were at 3,343. That's counting a full year of before the Plover ambulance went in. We were 4,491. So it's a drop of about 1,000. That's what we expected. That Plover's ambulance between Plover and Amherst would be a little over 1,000 runs, but Amherst was always up and running. But Plover would take just about 1,000 runs from us.
Well, I think the message here is look at all of the hard work and success going on behind the scenes. It couldn't be done without the commitment and the willing support of the women and men who make up the Stevens Point Fire and EMS service. I mean, we need to look at the macro picture here and recognize a lot of work took place. We're going to talk more about the training center and the things when we get to the chief's report. One last call before I move on. Commissioners, any final comments or questions for the fire chief? Bob, if you're waving your hand, I can barely see you, but go ahead, sir.
No, my only comment was a great big thank you on behalf of myself and the community to the entire department.
Chief Finn, you have the final word.
Yes, just so you know, this will be mailed out. I will send it to the city clerk, ask her to send it out to all city electeds, and it will be published on the city's website, if not by the end of business today, first thing tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Chief. And I'm strongly encouraging every city official to spend some time and do a deep dive into this report. And like the police annual report that was delivered in March, take the time to recognize the hard work that continues behind the scenes and the successes that are documented. All right, with that, I don't think we need a formal report. We will thank again the men and women of the fire service and EMS for that fine presentation. With that, let's move to item 3. It's the update on COVID-19. We'll begin in the fire service. Chief Finn, I'll recognize you and you can take it from there, sir.
I'm gonna move over and let Chief Gemza take this one.
Okay, thank you very much, Commission. So quickly or briefly, the big news that has changed in the COVID-19 realm for most of us has been the mask mandate that's been revoked or that was struck down by the Supreme Court, Wisconsin Supreme Court. With that being happening, Portage County stepped in. They ordered a face cover, a face covering statement, and their statement is that they are strongly suggesting that you cover or strongly recommend that you cover your face during any time that you're inside or within 6 feet of anybody using the same things. They've kind of fallen back on making it mandatory. They're just strongly recommending it. The city, however, Mayor Wiesa sent out an order, I believe it was Thursday, that masks are required for all city buildings, and that in order for you to come in, you need to have a mask. If you choose not to wear a mask, then you are to contact us online or one of the city department heads to contact them online and take care of your business that way. So those are the 2 big things that kind of happened since the last month we were there. The other thing that we're starting to see is that the trends for COVID are starting to taper down, as you've noticed, that we're trending in the downwards for positive cases. As far as the hospital goes, there's been no significant changes in hospitalization in our region, which is a good thing, which tells us that only 75.6% of our beds are in use in this area. ICU beds are at 78.9. So if you remember last month, I believe we were in the high 80s, low 90s. So as you can see, we're trending in the downward motion. Had a conversation with some of the doctors that we've had regarding the flu and what they're anticipating. As of right now, flu is way down. They're not even testing for it, they said. And so that they don't consider the flu being an issue with COVID-19 at this point. As of right now, there are 24 active cases in Portage County of COVID-19. And I'm proud to say that Portage County vaccination, at least one shot, is at 32,340 people have had their first vaccine, at least their first vaccination or totally vaccinated. That's kind of what I have right now. Are there any other questions?
Joe, is the county or the Moderna and Pfizer are still the 2 of choice in Portage County, correct?
As of right now, we just received last week word that our medics are being trained in the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And so they will start getting that, I'm assuming, shortly.
Okay, what is the current thinking that you're hearing as far as the need for booster shots? Is there any dialogue talking? I know there's some going on in health circles for October, November. What are you hearing?
We have, that has not been addressed at this point, so I really wouldn't be able to answer that question for you.
Okay. All right. Let me shift to Chief Zenner. Tom, how are things in the police department?
We are starting to ratchet up to full strength. Our patrol personnel will be rotating back to normal shifts that were operating pre-COVID. Other than that, there's still some programs such as fingerprinting that we were we'll refrain from cranking back up. But even our auxiliary have started to make cameos at events throughout the city. So slowly, we're creeping back to normal.
All right, question for both of you. We have no active cases of COVID within the police or fire ranks. Is that accurate?
None at the PD.
Joseph?
None at the FD at this time.
All right, thank you. All right, questions from the commission for either Assistant Chief Gemza or Chief Center? Mary, did you have anything? Okay. With that, I will thank you and we'll accept the report. Place her on file. Item 4 on our agenda this afternoon would be the approval of the minutes from March 9th. Leanne, again, I commend you for the great work you're doing documenting the work of our police and fire services as reported to the commission. Thank you for that. I have absolutely zero editorial changes. It's excellent work. Commissioners, Jerry, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I've got one question on item number 9. Underneath the benefits of joining CARES, third bullet point, says use simple HIPAA complaint web-based software. Should that be compliant?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
That's all I have.
Your chops as an English teacher are showing here, Jerry.
Yeah, too bad I'm not one.
All right.
Third reader.
Yeah, there you go. Anything from Commissioner Ostrowski or Commissioner Kirschling? These are the minutes from March 9th. If not, I'll move approval of the minutes as presented by Leanne, again with a hearty thank you for a job well done, Leanne. Is there a second?
I would like to second that.
Second by Commissioner Kirschling. All in favor of adopting the minutes as submitted to the Police and Fire Commission, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Motion carries. Item 5, the confirmation of the.
Gary,
Joe.
Commissioner Ostrowski seconded that.
Well, that's fine. Thank you, Joe. Our parliamentarian has spoken.
Well, I just want to give credit where credit's due here.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. All right, item 5, the confirmation of the bills. Again, I have reviewed the bills. I don't have anything really jumping off the page, but we're going to recognize our resident bookkeeper and auditor, Commissioner Ostrowski. Bob?
Okay, first one I'd like to go look at is the ambulance service. The budgetary side of that report. I noticed 2 items are over 50% of the used. I assume that's because these are once of a year big purchases. Is that correct, Mr. Genza?
That is correct. Those
Okay,
are the standards that we pay every 6 months. So we started out at the beginning of the year and we'll pay it towards the end of this year, the rest of it out.
And then that takes me to your department as well as the fire department. I noticed annual maintenance contract, it's split in half between the two. Is that maintenance contract for both fire stations or is that just for one? Which is that for?
Which one are you talking about, sir? That's complete. Well, that's complete control. That's
complete-
for both stations. Yeah, that's
Yes.
for our furnace HVAC.
Okay,
That's for both
alrighty,
stations for HVAC, and
alrighty.
it's a year contract.
And then I noticed a door lock had to be repaired at fire station 1 and that was split. What kind of door lock runs $450? I was wondering, what is this on?
It's the fob type.
Okay,
Okay.
wow.
It's for security reasons, and we can know who goes in and out of the building. Had the back door wore out, we had to replace it. So it's split because fire and EMS both use this house.
I suspected it was that, chief, but I wanted the confirmation. And then my last one, chief, for you, the fire department one was the Spiritual Care Association Chaplains Conference. How many chaplains do we send to that conference, or what is that? I see an expense of $565. I was wondering, how many chaplains do we send to that?
We have one chaplain, Chaplain Ficken, is for the fire department. The
Is that a
police
local
department.
chap? Is that a
Yeah,
local
pardon me?
chap?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to encourage you to, what are you going, you both can't talk at the same time. So
Yeah, but
Bob, if you ask a question, let Bob Finn respond to it. And then that way, because a lot of this, no one is really getting. So,
Yep.
Bob, Bob Finn, were you done with your answer?
Did you get my answer? That we do have one chaplain and that it is a local pastor. And if he is out of town, he's also the police department chaplain that we will use one of their chaplains if needed.
Okay, again, I suspected such, Robert, but I just wanted confirmation. I apologize for cutting in on you.
Anytime, sir.
And with that, that is all the questions I had.
Thank you, Commissioner Ostrowski. Commissioner Moore, Commissioner Kirschling. Joseph?
Not I.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the bills as submitted to the commission.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Ostrowski moves to approve, second by Commissioner Kirschling. All in favor of confirming the bills as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Motion carries. Thank you, folks. All right, item 6, update on the first scheduled K-9 recertification training. Chief Center, is this yours, or will Assistant Chief Cousseau be taking this?
Assistant Chief Cousseau oversees that program, and he'll be giving a presentation on this.
All right, Bob, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. So as all of you are aware, last year in 2020, we sent Sergeant Blue down to Von Lick at a very extensive cost to become a trainer. We were able to do that with the help of Skyward with an incredible donation from them. This year, Sergeant Blue's been working extremely hard and trying to set up the first recertification program here at the Stevens Point Police Department. And I am happy to announce that it is scheduled for November 3rd, 4th, and 5th of 2021. The program is going to consist of 3 days of recertification. He had reached out to add some additional training to a trainer out of California who will be flying in, and he'll be training a 2-day seminar on SKIDS, which is an acronym. And I know Joey Gemsel loves acronyms, so I will explain what that is. SKIDS is SWAT and canines interacting during deployment. It's getting the canines to work with SWAT teams in the local areas. And he also does training on CATS, which are Canine Tactical School, where it goes over what the best practices are for canine deployment in high-risk situations. It could be high-risk traffic stops or high-risk events, barricaded subjects, and so forth. He will be coming in and participating in this training for 3 days. This alone will save our department with 2 canines. We have to send them to an annual recertification of $800 a piece. This alone will save us $1,600 here at the Stevens Point Police Department. And other agencies have to pay $800 as well per dog. We are going to be charging $650 per dog. That will give them the recertification, and it also covers the cost of the seminar for the individual coming from California. And Lieutenant Mueller is working closely with Sergeant Blue, and we have a block of rooms set aside at Holiday Inn, 15 of them for this training. We haven't even sent out our brochure on it at this point, and we already have 5 agencies have already stated that they will be attending.
All right, are there questions for Assistant Chief Bob Cousseau?
Yes, Mary.
I was just, if you're going to be doing the training out here at the Holiday Inn, there's some really nice open fields for the canines to work, and it'd be a nice little feather in District 7's cap as well to have around by the soccer fields or Parkdale Park in that area. So kind of keep that in mind as well.
I will definitely do that. I'll talk to Sergeant Blue, and he has worked with several businesses throughout Portage County that he's got scheduled for the 3-day training, but open field training or even locating an individual for tracking purposes. We could definitely probably use some open areas as well. So I'll let Sergeant Blue know that as well.
Okay, well done, Alderperson. Are there questions for Assistant Chief Cusseau? Just the tip of the iceberg, just getting started, right, Bob?
This is going to be our first one. Hopefully it'll be a success. And then next year, we're hoping to implement 2 of them and then open it to a wider area throughout the state of Wisconsin. He is the only one in the state of Wisconsin that actually has this qualification to recertify canines.
I think that's an incredibly important distinction.
Hmm.
Well done. Are there questions for Assistant Chief Cusseau? I don't think any formal action is required other than to say thank you and keep up the good work. All right, item number 7, the approval of officers Wiersba and Zingler to regular police officer status. Members of the commission, you have communication from Steve Spaff, Lieutenant, and Lieutenant John Moss concerning these 2 officers. Chief Zenner, what would you like to add?
Both officers have been doing an outstanding job. Pleased to bring them forward to the Police and Fire Commission for a recommendation for them to go to permanent status.
I'm going to just spend a moment because both of these letters from both lieutenants are incredibly well written. They're incredibly stock full of information that I want to read just briefly into the public record, and just an excerpt from each one. I'm not going to read the entire letters. They are available. Officer Wiersba, according to Lieutenant Spath, has been near the top of his shift statistically for calls for service, directed patrols, investigations. Officer Wiersba is active in self-initiated field activity, has quickly become a valuable member of the shift, and has good working relationships with all members of the department. He's always looking for ways to improve his skills as an officer, whether it is by attending additional training or asking questions of superior officers on how to handle situations. There's more to that letter, but I want that into the record. Officer Zingler has shown consistent, this is from Lieutenant John Moss, his work ethic, job performance, and willingness to become more involved with the department are among strong assets to his character and dedication. This officer, too, has been near the top of his shift statistically for calls for service, directed patrols, and investigation, and has quickly become a valuable member of the shift and has good working relationship with members of the department. It is very rare this officer is not asking questions and getting input and guidance from senior officers. Both of these letters accurately reflect the attitude of our young officers today, and they're both to be commended for it. Bob, I see your signature appears on these as recommendations, and I'm fully supportive of moving both of these officers to permanent status on the Stevens Point Police Force. And I will make that a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Moore. Before I call for a vote, is there any comment or discussion? All right, all in favor of promoting both of these officers to permanent status, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. And commendations to both lieutenants for well-written narratives. And again, I think it reflects the body of the true, accurate work that's taking place in the city of Stevens Point. And with that said, I'm going to recognize Chief Zenner for the police chief's report. Are you still basking in the glow from your annual report for March there, Chief?
Yes, I am. And I wanted to say thank you very much. I'm very proud of our lieutenants, all our leadership staff and officers, but our lieutenants make my job easy. They are excellent officers, and I can't say enough about them.
I would agree. Go ahead, Chief.
For the chief's report, there's a couple things I wanted to point out. In particular, we did have a challenge coin issuing to 2 12-year-old juvenile males. This one in particular got my attention. I've been an officer for Stevens Point for 27 years. I can only think of really one time in that period that we found a handgun laying out in our community. I take a week vacation, I come back, and we have 2 of them found. This one in particular was next to Mead Park. Well, it's in Mead Park next to the Cache Playground. In this particular case, it was a loaded handgun. The two young males acted appropriately, contacted law enforcement, did not touch the weapon. We were able to respond to the scene, secure the weapon, and we're currently doing an investigation where we may be able to find a potential owner on this. There's significant backstory into that, but the main one, two young juvenile males in our community, definitely on top of their game, contacting law enforcement and having us respond and getting that weapon off out of a park. We do have a couple of our officers right now going through the field training process. Officer John Cluth and Officer Cole O'Neill. Just got the report from the field training officers. They'll be finishing up their first step of FTO, I believe actually today. And then as I also noted on here, and we have Interim Assistant Chief Bob Cuso amongst us. I am proud to announce as of Thursday at 10 a.m. he'll be going through the swearing in process, and he will be a permanent staff in charge of the operations, which includes our patrol.
Congratulations, Bob.
A couple of things that we will be working on moving forward. We continue down this trend of vehicle pursuits. We did have 3 of them this past month. We've talked about this previously. Nationally, this is occurring. It's not just in our community. We're going to be going through an assessment phase. Actually, Assistant Chief Cuso will be running that program, just kind of looking at, do we have some consistencies, anything that we can address, or just how do we get a handle on this? But it is an increasing call for service that we're seeing. Was there any questions anybody had within the chief's report that I could answer or clarify?
No, once again, I think it's important to really point out there is so much information that you and your management team are pouring into that report that really reflects the body of work being done by the women and men of the Stevens Point Police Department. It clearly shows, as I spent some time, studying this report, and then of course the annual report, is under any objective measurement, the administration of that police department under Chief Zenner and the assistant chiefs and lieutenants and the men and women has been very aggressive, very progressive. You are certainly anything but a caretaker chief, and you're to be commended for that. I mean, you have, again, I would simply refer anyone who pays any attention to what the commission is doing, take a look at the 2020 report. I mean, there are a lot of initiatives. There are a lot of innovative programs and policies that have been implemented in the last year, including policies on transparency, use of force. And again, commendations to all involved here, Chief Zenner.
I'd like to take an opportunity that you brought that up. Alder Mary Kneebone, thank you very much. You've been a wonderful advocate for this police department. I appreciate you bringing up our annual report at council and pointing that out. And also, we do have a candidate running unopposed from District 3, Ginger Keemer, who is with us today. She came down to the police department to speak with me and actually address that when she looked at our use of force reporting within the packet that went to council. I appreciate the fact that she brought that to my attention. I got the easy job of putting it in paperwork. It's the personnel at this police department, in particular when it comes to our use of force, Lieutenant Joe Johnson, who collects that data for us, reports that to me. I can't speak enough of our staff and our leadership here at the police department. Dana Williams, Lieutenant, who's our public information officer, who's worked at multiple platforms to get information out, to include, we now have a Twitter account. I have no idea how to get on it, but we have a Twitter account. We have a Facebook account. She is at this point going through working with John Quirk to redo our webpage. Very excited about that. I actually just sat down with her today. But I mean, I could go on and on. It's the staff that I work with is who makes us look good and gets that out. So, but thank you, Mary. Thank you to the Police and Fire Commission for the support that you've given us this past year. When you look back over it, COVID, other events that took place that obviously kept all of you busy. It's been a year, and look forward to the challenges we got moving forward in 2021.
Commissioner Ostrowski?
One question for you, Chief. Are we now at full strength at the department?
We are at this point, as I said, Assistant Chief Robert Cousseau will be moving to permanent status as of Thursday. We have initiated a promotional process as those positions are contractual. We do have a lieutenant position that is open that's being filled by acting Lieutenant Brian Brooks for about 9 months now. So that will go through a hiring process. There's the potential, obviously, with promotions that we'll have an opening at sergeant and lead officer. Through all of this, we actually are running one detective short. So we anticipate going through an appointment in that position. We are one officer short, and at this point, we will that will remain open, and we'll reevaluate. I'm thinking probably around July or August on that, depending on where we're at.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Yep.
Commissioner Kirschling, Commissioner Moore. All right. And we'd like to welcome the Alder candidate, and we are delighted anytime an Alder person or Alder candidate takes time to actually see what's going on at the Police and Fire Commission. So as a former elected official, I won't congratulate you prematurely on your election. But, we certainly hope this is the first of many meetings you can attend for an accurate perspective on the work being done by the men and women of the police and fire services. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. With that said, I'm going to move approval of Chief Zenner's report.
Kirschling, second.
Thank you, Commissioner Kirschling. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Both say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Tom. Keep up the good work. Keep pushing it forward. You're not a caretaker, and anybody who thinks you are is grossly mistaken. All right, item number 9, the fire chief's report. Chief Finn, I don't see you. Did you disappear on me here? Oh, there you are. If you're going to broadcast from the training room, Bob, you're going to have to start standing on a table or something there, right? No, don't do that. Don't do that. Chief Finn, you are recognized for the fire chief and EMS report.
All dressed alike.
You guys, I believe all the commissioners were sent the fire report and EMS monthly reports. Basically, what I want to go over on them is that we completed our paramedic refresher. All members who were due to have their license renewed have done so. I'm going to have Chief Kemsa give a little brief thing on this handy bike pediatric training, if you want to just talk to him real quick about that. Because that's specialized training, it's a big deal.
Absolutely.
So, but firefighter Ben Molnar and many firefighters prior to him had wanted to work into this hand-heavy pediatric training resuscitation system. There's a lot of limitations to getting in it. You just can't say, hey, it looks cool, let's move in that direction. And so firefighter Ben Molnar took over the torch to get everything set up. What this system is it's all inclusive, but it's customized directly to our department and Portage County EMS. So all the information on the app is specific to what we do and how our protocols are set up. However, it's in order to get it into the app, there was a lot of background that needed to be done, and firefighter Ben Molnar did all that work. with working with Hand Heavy, their people, and with Dr. Clark to ensure that the information was correct. This Hand Heavy it's on our smartphones in our ambulances. They're able to quickly access the information from there and utilize it in a pediatric or an adult code. Originally, it was set up for pediatrics. It's important to note that departments that had switched over to Hand Heavy had reduced any medication errors in pediatric by over 42% of their reportable errors. What you have to understand is we don't see a lot of pediatric patients, but when we do, they're really sick. And it's important that with this training, that they have that information available to them in real time and right away. So Portage County, we put together a proposal. Portage County agreed to purchase it for all the transporting agencies in Portage County. And like I said, firefighter Ben Molnar, firefighter paramedic Ross Astrike, firefighter paramedic Jason Pettis, and training officer Trevor took the trainer, so they are certified and able to train our personnel every 2 years. If you remember PALS, which is an AHA forming of certification for pediatrics, Hand Heavy is the equivalent of that. It's recognized by the National Registry and all of that. So for 3 days, well, actually 6 days, we went on with an extensive training for our paramedics to ensure they understood how to use it, and it also worked as our pediatric training. That's all I have. Are there any questions?
Chief, is there any more to your report? I have no questions on that, Joseph.
Do you have anything for Chief Gumbs on this?
Yeah, anything more for Chief Kenseth? Again, I think it's an exceptional example of cutting edge technology that's going to save lives and reduce pain and suffering among our most vulnerable population, the children. So well done to all involved in that, Joe.
Thank you.
Chief Finn, I'm sorry if you did interrupt. Go ahead, sir.
Since we're in the training aspect of it, under the fire section of the report, total training hours for the month was 858.75. We've completed just under 1,600 hours of training so far this year. With the weather starting to get a little nice, we are starting to get some of our props and do some of our things that we wanted to get done at the training site. Outside of the reports, I want to mention that we have worked with the Wisconsin chapter of the International Association of Arson Investigators. They hold their spring conference here every year. And last year it was canceled due to COVID. We have worked with them. They have worked with the Holiday Inn, both the fire department and the Wisconsin chapter, the 25 have worked with the health department, and they are going to be able to hold an in-person conference this spring, the first week of June out at the Holiday Inn, which will bring in people to the city. Also, we are continuing to work with DCI, as I said in the annual report, Department of Criminal Investigations, to put on the first ever certified fire investigator class. We're hoping that goes in August. If we can meet all the CDC protocols, that class will go on. I do know they want to hold 2 classes here next year. Commissioner Ostrowski, as Chief Center, he feels up to full staff. I sadly have to say that we are short 9. 5 people have resigned in the last, or we knew that some of them were going to resign in the last 5 or 6 weeks. 2 probationary firefighters went to Oshkosh. 1 firefighter who's been on about 8 years, went to Green Bay. 1 of less than 5 years went to Grand Chute, and 1 retired to go do other things. We do have 1 conditional offer of employment out there. He's going through the testing now. I have to thank Lisa Yakush, our HR director, even though that we don't report to the city. She's been extremely helpful, helping us run the next test. Amanda, our administrative assistant, and Assistant Chief Gemza. We advertised and left it out there, and Saturday, April 10th, and Monday, April 14th, we were hosting an exam for 17 people. After that exams, we will come up with oral interviews the following week, and we hope to have the list before the PFC in May. As we talked about in last month's PFC meeting about just changing the qualifications, we're hoping the candidates, we have enough candidates to hire approximately 5 to 6 people starting in June. And they will go into a 4 to 6 week fire academy just for the Stevens Point firefighter. It will be run by Division Chief Howard. He's in the progress right now of getting all the educational benchmarks needed. What do you call them? CPRs to meet, and then we will assist them in getting their state certification, and we're going to go from there. Other than that, I see him on the screen now, and I know President Westcott, you're going to talk about him. But Commissioner Carlson, I just want to thank you for your years of service. It's been a pleasure working with you as an assistant police chief, as the commissioner. We've worked together since I've been here. When I was new here, you treated me with nothing but respect. And it meant a lot to me being from outside the area. It just shows the character and integrity that you do have. And I want to just personally say thank you.
Thank you.
That's my report.
Thank you, Chief Finn, and right back at you. Thank you.
Any
All
other
right.
questions?
Bob, you addressed the turnover to a degree in your cover letter on your annual report, but since you publicly brought it up here, I think a little broader definition as to how many of these folks who have left in, say, the last, and Joseph as the liaison, you can jump in here too, how many have left for better job, moving closer to home, more salary and benefits? I don't want to leave a distorted impression in the community that so many people are leaving other than they're simply doing what so many folks do. They're getting a better job. Bob, would you address that since you brought it up?
Sure. As you know, during COVID, no one was hiring. We went to great lengths to try to hire people. And we were able to hire some very qualified young personnel. I'm speaking to the 2 probationary guys. We hired them, and when the hiring process opened up throughout the state and in central Wisconsin, I should say central Wisconsin throughout the state, they were offered jobs in Oshkosh. They're both from the Oshkosh area. Their families are there. That's where they're from. So basically they went home. The one firefighter who left and went to Green Bay, he had a relative that was retired as a deputy or assistant chief of Green Bay. He's from that area. He's been trying to go back to Green Bay for, I know of at least 3 or 4 years. The other gentleman that left that had 3 years on the job, he's been trying to get back to the Fox Valley Grand Chute. That's where he's from. And the other gentleman that left had about 12 years on the job, and he retired, and he went and did his personal business. So I did exit interviews with the ones I could. Others I have reached out to, or I will reach out to see if they want to do an exit interview. But that's the explanation I was given, is that basically they were going home.
Can you address, or maybe Commissioner Kirschling can address this, how many times do we hear salary, benefits, and going home are the reason that I'm moving on? You do hear it.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I
Bob,
do.
go ahead, Bob.
So I do hear it. And like I said, right now, going home is the biggest reason. People that I know, people leave the Stevens Point Fire Department. We've hired a lot of young people in the last 4 or 5 years. And I understand that going home. There are certain things that we are looking at and that will be reported to the Police and Fire Commission in the near future, if there's anything we can do to change that. But when you go look at their salaries and their benefits, we're not at the top, but we're not at the bottom, okay? There are certain things we wanted to do and how we conducted exit interviews, but due to the circumstances, what was going on, we couldn't change the way. Now, Commissioner Kirschland and I have talked that we can get together and have exit interviews together. So there are things we're gonna try to change. And even though we've had these people leave, I'm very encouraged where this department's going. We have a lot of young talent. We have a training officer, assistant chiefs, and a fire marshal that want to go forward. We're not going to look back. We're going to move forward. And I think the future looks bright here. Give us some time and we'll get there.
Commissioner Kirschling, I know that you will be joining Chief Finn in conducting exit interviews. What would you like to add to that? Joe, I cannot hear you. For whatever reason, yeah, we've lost your volume here, Bob. No. All right, I'm going to ask Chief Finn. Can you mute the classroom? That might be creating a feedback loop. That's if you would mute. There we go. All right, Joe. You can't hear you at all, Joe. All right, well, I can barely hear you, but Commissioner Kirschling is working with the management team at Fire and will be joining and has been a part of some exit interviews and will continue to do that. And as you heard from Chief Finn, there will be a series of recommendations coming forward to this commission in the near future. Are there any questions for Chief Finn or Assistant Chief Gemza on their respective reports? All right, Chair will entertain a motion to accept the reports and place them on file.
So moved.
Commissioner Ostrowski, seconded by Commissioner Moore. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. All right. Initially, I wanted to publicly recognize and thank one person at the end of our meeting today, but about a half hour before this meeting, I decided after reading some articles that I wanted to include, in addition to thanking publicly Commissioner Carlson, I want to thank the women who have served on the Police and Fire Commission. The City Council's president has been quoted in multiple media reports, including the Portage County Gazette, the Point Plover Metro Wire, as saying the Police and Fire Commission has historically been all male. That is an untrue statement. It is not factual. I believe it's disrespectful to ignore the service of women who have served on this Police and Fire Commission, women that I know personally, because I put a couple of them on the commission when I was mayor. 5 women who I know of personally have served on the Police and Fire Commission since the mid-'80s, including Barb Kranek. Many of you certainly remember Barb Kranek, who went on to have a distinguished career as the superb city clerk in the city of Stevens Point, and then came out of retirement to serve as the interim city clerk in the city of Stevens Point. Pat Woodka, I'm not sure where we're getting this feedback, Tom, but if we could, thank you. Pat Woodka served many, many years, multiple terms on the Police and Fire Commission, including an extended term, as I'm sure Mr. Carlson might remember, as president of the Police and Fire Commission. And she served many years and worked very hard on a myriad of items for the Police and Fire Commission. Julie Zabel and Pat Woodka were both members of the Police and Fire Commission when I took office in 1995. They worked hard and served long as members of the Police and Fire Commission. During my tenure as mayor, I appointed former Alderperson Karen Aldinger and the former Vice President for Nursing, Mary Taylor, to the Police and Fire Commission. That is at least 5 women that I know of off the top of my head who provided decades of service to the police and fire services in Stevens Point. Now, these facts are readily available to anyone who cares to spend 10 minutes to look them up. But I'm aware of at least 5 women who served this community with honor and put a lot into it. And they deserve a thanks, which I now offer as the president of the Police and Fire Commission. I'm now going to recognize and talk a little bit about Commissioner Ron Carlson. By the way, Leanne, I'd like all these remarks concerning the 5 women who have served on the commission formally entered into the record of the Police and Fire Commission for future historic reference. I would also like these remarks entered into the permanent record on behalf of the commission for Commissioner Carlson. The loss of Police and Fire Commissioner Ron Carlson is a tremendous setback for public safety and progressive policing in the city of Stevens Point. As many of you know, after his service as Assistant Police Chief for Stevens Point, Ron dedicated years of his life to criminal justice work focused on offender reentry into our community. Ron was easily among the most qualified, experienced, and effective commissioners of the past 3 decades. Ron exceeds all of the qualifications to be a commissioner. Ron has the knowledge of police and fire operations, knowledge of the legal process, procedure, actual public protection experience, personnel and hiring experience, and as we all know, a very affable nature. Ron volunteered thousands and thousands of his personal time in this community. He served in the spirit of goodwill. Ron knows this work because Ron did this work, serving the city of Stevens Point for decades. His departure is a loss for public safety, good government, civic engagement, and our community. Ron, I publicly thank you. I publicly commend you. And before I give you the last word of the day, which I rarely give anyone, I'm going to recognize my colleagues. Commissioner Ostrowski, why don't you go first, as you're the other officer of this commission?
Thank you, President Westcott. Ron Carlson, to me, has been more than a commissioner. He has served as liaison to the PD, the fire department, and most importantly, he has taken on special projects a number of times. Projects that required a lot of time, a lot of effort. And with this, he showed his wealth of knowledge, but more than that, he showed his concern for the citizens of Stevens Point. The biggest thing I learned from Ron is his logic. He always wanted the right answers, whether they went his way or not, but he was very logical. He was fair and he was always positive, and I admire that. And the biggest thing I can say, Ron, after serving with you, I hope we remain friends, because we became that through this working together. Thank you for your service to the city.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Ostrowski. Commissioner Moore is a former alderperson and commissioner now. You are recognized.
Ron, you know, being a former alderman and serving the community for over 20 years, your name came up often, and I was always aware of you and the things that you had been doing in the past. We never had opportunity to spend time on a commission together until we both ended up here. And it was a great pleasure getting to know you and put a name to the face, Ron Carlson. I have enjoyed becoming closer to you and knowing you as a friend through this commission, and respect your work and what you've done for this community very much. And I hope we keep in touch. I thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Commissioner Kirschling, I know you were on the phone. Would you like to offer a thought before I recognize former Commissioner Carlson, who I'm going to give the last word here to? Joe, are you there? Well, Joe, if you're trying to talk, you're going to have to unmute your phone.
I don't believe he can unmute his phone. When he came in, that was where the echo was coming from, and I muted him. So he is, he's just a pitcher right now.
All right.
But he is hearing it. He's communicating with me on my cell phone.
All right. Well, with that said, I'm going to recognize former Commissioner Ron Carlson. We don't have the right words here, Ron, other than thank you. But you're going to get the final word at this commission meeting. So you have the floor, sir.
First of all, I want to say thank you, President Westcott and Commissioners Moore and Ostrowski. I'm humbled. I feel like it's a wonderful life or something, that old television program, but you touched me today. I just want to say, I always felt it an honor to work with everyone on this team, and that's what we were, a team. I thought we worked together, even when we didn't work together and disagreed. It was still a team effort, and our decisions were always based on what was good for the departments or the community as a whole. And I just want to reiterate, since 1978, I've worked in this community in one fashion or another, as a police officer, as a mentor, as a coach, on many various board of directors for nonprofits. And my actions and decisions were always based on what was good for the individual, the organization, and the overall of the community. And I can tell you, in those 43 years, when my head would hit the pillow at the end of the day, it hit the pillow with a clear conscience. I've got to work in a Green Bay Packer reference here, and that's to Vince Lombardi, who always stressed the basics in his coaching, blocking and tackling. And I can only hope that our city government stresses the essentials as well, such as road repair, lowering taxes, police and fire departments and their protection, garbage collection, water purity, and fair and affordable housing. And in closing, I just want to say, no person should ever lose a job or a position based on their skin color, their sex, or their age. I pray that our world gets better in those respects. And in closing, I just again want to say it was a true pleasure working with everyone, Chiefs Finn and Zenner as well, the entire community. It's always been a pleasure to serve and an honor. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my wife these last 43 years for sticking by me. Donna, thank you. And the rest of my family, thank you all.
Thank you, Ron. We publicly acknowledge and thank you for your years of service, and we publicly acknowledge and honor the work of at least 5 women who spent decades on this commission. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.